君のことば繰り返し寝ても覚めてもやまないそっけない君の笑顔が恋しくて星に願うのまた会えるよね
ごめん。I was having a bit of trouble. Okay. 皆さん。おはよう。Good morning. Good evening. Good afternoon. Hi. Thank you for coming today. We have a nice campfire. We got the spooky BGM. Got the creepy ambiance. Good. No, my feet's not burning. It's just a little toasty. Don't worry. The ambiance is perfect for today. I know. Thank you. So, last week, I asked for a bunch of user submissions for some spooky tales, right? 健全な僕が太もも夕霧を見に来たよ。何よ何よ。別に太ももってわけでもないでしょ。まったく。Yes, something on an open fire. No, they're not. They are okay. Some hot dogs. No, they're not. Can you hear me okay? Is it loud enough? Is it loud enough? Yeah, I'm using the fire. I'd rather stick my feet in fire. So rather than show you guys. It's loud enough? Okay, good. Good. Could be my phone, but you're really low. I don't want to talk too loudly with this because if I talk at normal, I want to say temperature, then it gets this loud. But yeah, anyways. Shh, come in. I'm sorry. It's alright. Okay. ごめんね。Yoshi. Look. It is the 3DO. I got my 3DO just for this. Right. So, have you guys ever had a paranormal experience? Or a spooky experience? Or just downright terrifying experience? You're using earbuds so extra crinkly. Gomenne. Sorry. You seen a ghost train? Oh. You had many? Oh. Dang. I feel like I'm pretty well protected in that I don't have too many of them, to be honest. You seen a face floating? Well, if you've submitted your story, then you don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna read it. But, sorry, I have my drink here. My throat is so dry. Your house was next to a mass burial from WW2. You wanna hear mine? I don't have too many. I have seen a dragon before. When I was in Okinawa. Back when I was a kid. Dragons exist. But it was in a mountain. Right? Isn't that cool? Anyways, I feel like I've seen a dragon. Of course they exist, right? Ryujin-sama wa sonzai suru no yo. A Komodo dragon or a normal dragon? An Asian dragon, you know, the long serpent kind ones. What else have I had? I'm not sure what else I've had before. I used to have a lucky rock. Are there many dragon sightings there? There are, surprisingly. Okinawa has their own, like, shaman known as Yuta. And there's a lot of stories that involve Yuta. You used to have a tiger eye as your lucky rock? I used to have a lucky rock that I just found it on the ground. I think it's what basically started everything for me. It was like a smooth rock, like a perfect circle, and then it was, oops, sorry, I ran into things here. My feet are on fire. No, it's fine, it's fine. But I had a lucky rock that, it was shaped like a perfect circle. It was black, and it had like a Pac-Man bite out of it. I don't know how to explain it. Whether it's read on stream or not, really hope you enjoy mine. I hope so. I hope so. Thank you. You took the time to write it. I appreciate it. Arigato ne, Mimik-san. But anyways, so my lucky rock was shaped like a perfect circle, except it had like a Pac-Man mouth, right? Like this chunk taken out of it, and it was really smooth. And I kept it in my pocket at all times. One day, I lost my house key, or I think I forgot my house key at home, and I come home from elementary school, and nobody's home. I can't get in. I'm just locked outside, right? And for me, like, being locked outside was usually punishment, right? So I was like, oh no, right? And then I go into, like, we had a shed in the backyard, right? In the yard, because my family lived in a house, not an apartment. Like, we had an old Japanese house, right? And I was like, there's gotta be a key, like a spare key somewhere in the shed, because I remember it. Well, it turned out they moved where the key was kept, so it wasn't there either. It was so traumatic, I know. And then I didn't have any money on me, so I couldn't go go hang out at the mall or anything like that. So I went in the backyard, in the shed, and I couldn't find the key, and I'm crying. And so, in a fit of rage, I threw my rock out of my pocket. And the little Pac-Man shaped area, the little Pac-Man like notch in the rock, got caught on this like suction cup, like a little cup that was suctioned to the wall in the garage, like high up. And I didn't notice it before, but I was like, oh no, my rock, right? So I had to like grab a footstool to get up there. And inside that cup was my rock and a spare house key. I was like, oh, Kami does exist at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, Kami does exist. It was a good rock. I don't know where it is anymore. It left me already. Anyways, just a small random happening. It's not a spooky story. If you want a spooky story, I was on Twitter earlier this morning. It was a very good rock. But I was on Twitter this morning, and I get a lot of Chiikawa fan art on my timeline, and I like it a lot. And finally, I got this. This is absolutely terrifying. Oops. This shows up on my timeline. Come in, it's too big. I'm like, oh no, not Siren. I was so terrified. Absolutely terrified. It's so bad. So bad. Apparently it was at the new comic kit. Am I curious? No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, maybe just a little bit. You looking for That's in the Happy Meals? No, it was at Comic Kit. It's a doujinshi. It's a book. Look at the top. Look at that top. R18 skinny book. I might be a little bit curious. You've been seeing merch from this Comic Kit on Twitter? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you guys submitted a bunch of stories. Okinawa has a lot of like places that you shouldn't go, and like tunnels that you should not, you know, like do kimodameshi in. Definitely a free use of free will, right? I think so too. But there's supposedly you should not come across a yuta. You know, I mentioned yuta, and yuta are like the shamans in Okinawa, the spirit workers. You should never come across a yuta who is in the middle of training, because she would go, they're always she's, right? They're all female. Yutas go into like the forest and the mountains to go do their like spiritual training, right? What do they wear? They wear all white, like a white robe. But never seen a he. Yeah, it's always a she. But if you come across a yuta when she is training, then you will get cursed. So you have to like avert your eyes, turn around, and run as fast as you can, because like she will come running after you with an axe, supposedly, and like try to kill you. Today's your birthday. Hi, Kitsuki Kiroto-san. Happy birthday. When I was a kid, this is still back in like elementary school, right? So there's a famous, infamous tunnel in Okinawa that you should not go explore at nighttime, you know, looking for ghosts. That's called kimodameshi. But there was a group of kids who were from my school, but they were not my friend group. They went to go do kimodameshi there, and the story I heard was that they saw a yuta and they came running back. You know, like kids, they're all like wah, 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 and like scared, but in a fun way, right? So they came running back. And they told the story the next day, but one of the kids in particular was like actually scared, and like during like playtime and in outdoor playtime and stuff, they would be like, I think I still see the yuta. I see a yuta, right? And you know, like Sensei's like, no, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. But I wish I still have a picture, but there was one time when our class was taking a graduation picture on the beach, right? We were taking our elementary school graduation picture on the beach because, you know, it's Okinawa. There's beach everywhere, right? And in the background of this picture, you can actually see like a woman in white clothing, but only from the waist up. And she's in the water holding like a sickle, and she looks like she's running towards the people, like us kids that are standing on the beach with the water, like with the waves to our back, right? And it looks like she's running towards us from the waves. It was so scary. And she's kind of like faded from the waist up. But the thing is, like, Yuta are real people. They're not, they're not spirits or anything. So, is she like astral projecting her spiritual form after these kids that saw her like training past the tunnel? That's what I'm wondering, right? But that is the spookiest story that I have. Why after the kids? Because they supposedly saw her when she was training, because this tunnel, there's a famous tunnel in Okinawa. I wonder if these people still see here today following them. That's what I wonder too. Like, I don't keep in contact with them anymore, but it's a lot of work to do for nothing, right? Damn, I wonder if they're still being followed today as well. It's kind of crazy. Next Yaimen road trip location, the tunnel in Okinawa. Oh gosh. God. It's pretty scary, isn't it? But let's take a look at some of your submissions. So, I have 26, which is amazing. Hang on, I need to wet my throat. Yeah, but there's a little difference though, because like, so the kid saw the Yuta holding an axe, but in the photo, it was like a sickle. Yeah, that's a lot of stories. Thank you so much. It's a solid churn out. So, then I don't want to like talk fast or anything. I don't know if you signed your name on the story. Should I mention it? I don't know. Might have been a ghost from a previous Yuta in training that passed away. For some reason, I didn't get the impression that she passed away. I didn't get the impression that she passed away. I just get the impression that she's like astral projecting her ghost onto them to like still try to kill them or nothing. But okay, so this one is like 3 stories in one by one person. Let me rearrange things around here a little bit. Ghostly projection of a curse? That's what I was thinking too. I'm not questioning the shaman's ability to throw their spirit. That's what I think too. Alright, so here's one of your projections. Sorry for the clicky mouse, I never changed the switches in this. Shouldn't the Yuta no longer be a trainee? Maybe she's no longer a trainee and she's still trying to kill them. Alright, so we'll start with the first one. First impression. I'm really excited for your stories. Like, very excited. So, first submission. When I was a kid, I used to live in an old house. It was in a bad part of town, and at times you could see some sketchy figures walk around the area. Crime came often, and sirens and gunshots could be heard while you slept. The creepiest part, however, was that the neighborhood just didn't have many working sidewalk lights, so many of the streets after 8 p.m. were completely pitch black. Pure darkness. Even during one night of Halloween, we could have sworn that fog rolled into the area. But besides that, this old house that I lived in was a haunted house. It creaked and moaned as wind passed through the neighborhood. And as you tried to sleep, you would hear voices coming from the walls, like whispers of children. Many things happened in that house while I grew up, but here are my favorites. Knock, knock. My brother used to always complain about a knocking sound coming from his window that was beside him. Mind you, from the outside, the window is about 7 to 8 feet up. So my dad inspected the area and saw that the tree growing from our neighbor's house had reached over to our side, letting one of its branches knock against the window. My brother sworn that the knocking sounded much heavier. Nevertheless, my dad cut the branch right off. Nothing was near his window as night neared. But then once more, knock, knock. And as my brother described it, as he looked over, he saw this tall man with a black coat on, knocking against the window. Of course, my brother bolted out of the room and told our parents. My dad found no one back there. I feel like that's the end of that story. That is from Petalman. Thank you for the submission. I feel like spooky, right? I feel like that I've seen a Minecraft mod that plays like that. Do you ever watch spooky Minecraft mods on YouTube? I do wonder what the tall man with a black coat was. It almost sounds like a Western Hashak-sama. You gotta recommend those videos before, right? Right? It's so good. I do kind of wonder. I want to. Hang on. Let me reach over real fast. Just a minute. I kind of want to pull a card about this. I wish I had more cards. I've been like really into card reading recently. Sounds like Hatman? Is there such thing? hands are too small for this stick. You seen the same channel doing the Koromon again with guns? You think it's a vengeful spirit? The thing about spirits is that a lot of them are just bored. Sorry. These cards are too big for my hand. Let's see. This is just a normal tarot. Being dead does seem boring, right? I got the Emperor. Oh. So, I mean, obviously it is a male figure, duh, right? It is a tall man, but I'm kind of getting the... What does it say about the Emperor? Okay, the tarot card meaning itself doesn't really tell much to me, but it could be like that's what I'm feeling is maybe a patriarch of the house, or like an entity that perhaps is not a spirit, but like I don't know how to describe it, like a fae, or I guess fae would be the easiest way to speak about it, but not a spirit, but something that lives in this area and like used to rule it, right? House spirits, yeah. That's what I'm feeling like. Like a fae. Yeah, like a fairy. It's kind of the impression that I'm getting out of it. Very interesting. And it's there to remind you, hey, this is my turf, and you're just on it. Gotta spook the children every once in a while. But doesn't want to be let in. I have heard that if you see a ghost in your dreams, like trying to get in your house, or if they do get in your house, that they are actually there already. Thank you so much for the submission. I want more types of cards now. Okay, what's next? We have floating pots and pans. House was indeed an ancient. Interesting. I trust my dad. He's an incredibly hard worker and wouldn't lie to his kids. He'd do anything but lie, really. So when we were all startled awake from what sounded like the sounds of dropping pots and pans, we essentially woke up in a cold sweat. I thought that someone was breaking in. My brother jumped down and I slowly followed. And as he peeked open the door, we just saw our dad in the kitchen, lights on. As the rest of the family showed up, the scene was just of my dad, with pots and pans scattered about in the kitchen floor. Every single one of them on the ground. As my dad explained it, he woke up to check out some noises that were happening in the kitchen. But what he saw were all the pots and pans floating. Then, as he turned on the lights, they all came crashing down. Yoppa! You have an actual, poltergeist in your old house. That is insane. The ghost is trying to cook. Right? Thank you so much for your submission, Petalight. But that's some exorcist levels of right. I have heard before that poltergeists are not like, for lack of better word, a species of ghost, but more like poltergeist activity is something that they do, right? Rather than poltergeist being a species itself. You saw shadows of people getting murdered. Oh my god. Sage is not going to fix your house. That is insane. That's pretty scary. Good evening. Now, let's finish this entry. We have one more. One more from Peroman, and this is apparently his favorite story. Let's see. Now, this is one of my favorite stories. I have many more scary things about this wretched house, but this one is certainly the spookiest, and certainly the one that still haunts me and my siblings to this day. As before, said my brother described this tall man in a coat. And well, guess what? He now haunted the rest of us. Even to this day. As fate had it, when we were little, we were barely introduced to the internet. Like dinosaur floppy disk using computers. Scary. And we liked the scary parts of the internet. So one day, we apparently fucked around with mirrors. Don't know how or why. Not even my siblings remember. All we know is that whenever we bring it up, we are all brought to some defense mechanism where we start tearing up and have a panic attack. But now, on 2 different occasions, me and my siblings have shared similar dreams about a mirror shattering and this tall man in a coat catching us. Gosh. Then we have seen this tall man in real life. One day, my brother, at the time about 24 or 25 years old, and I remember he called us about if we remembered about the tall man in a coat. We of course all described the same tall man, but my brother concerns only grew. He had told us that he was driving quite late out, simply returning home. But then, it seemed like he was being chased by this tall man in a coat. Oh gosh. Every corner he turned, it just felt like he was on every road. Even I, recently, when I was drinking with friends, I stepped out for a bit. And as I walked out to the car, all I see in the darkness was a pair of shoes that darted backwards. That belonged to a tall man in a coat. And gone. Oh no. Oh no. R.I.P. Petalight. man. This is why I feel like he's not he's not even like a spirit. Maybe more like an entity from another plane. I don't know why you're running. When you should be, yeah, why are you writing when you should be running? It's so over. Have you come across this entity recently? Has it happened again? Bro summoned the entity from another plane when the entity was already trying to get in. Once the mirror shattered, the portal, the seal was broken. It doesn't sound like it's very friendly is the thing. Go get a priest to bless you or go to Okinawa. I don't know if going to Okinawa would help you. I have heard recently, not recently, but so I was really into occult stuff, right? And I have a friend who can supposedly see spirits and like, and I don't know how much I trust their stories, but one thing they tell me is that so Japan has a lot of what they call jiko bukken, which is what is it called in English? Stigmatized property, where nobody wants to rent the apartments because there's a lot of paranormal activity in them. They're called stigmatized properties or something like that, right? The rent's way cheaper. Well, but according to my friend, they kind of got addicted to stigmatized properties because according to them, if you just kind of think in your mind and be like, I really want to be alone here, and you know, you're dead and I don't really want a roommate and you're not supposed to be here, can you please leave? If you just kind of wish in your mind like, can you please leave, majority of the time they will leave you alone. You just have to ask. Supposedly 幽霊とかはいかがわしいことを嫌って逃げていくらしい。いえ、これは仕方がなくやむなく健全な意見です。そうなの? Yeah. So, you highly doubt that? I mean, in a good majority of places that you just have to ask. Well, there was one property that she rented. She was kind of addicted on getting low rent and was like moving every 2 years, like the thrill of the bargain. I understand, I get it, right? I also love a good bargain, but there was one property where she would ask, right? And the spirit wouldn't leave. And I'm just like, uh-oh, right? And she would be like laying there, and there's a man, like a sweaty man, that's standing over her while she's sleeping, and she could hear the breathing, like, and she's like, oh no, right? And so she keeps on praying in her brain, like, Please, please leave. I just want to be here peacefully alone. She played with fire. She played with fire, right? And like it wasn't working, so she was like, "Oh no, let me pull out the big guns." And like she found some sutras, and like the heart sutra is supposedly for making spirits pass on to the other world, right? And so she's playing the heart sutra, and it's not working. It's still there, right? And she's like, "Fuck, what do I do? What do I do?" Well, she looked up the history of this particular place, and it turns out that the spirit that the person that used to live there, that died in the apartment, was not Japanese. So it was literally a language barrier, apparently, supposedly. So, anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that apparently you have all these different exorcists and different religions, different sects. Her ghost was not Nihongo Jozu. But like demons can only be dealt by, or like Christian demons can only be dealt by a Christian priest, and like Buddhist ashuras can only be dealt by a Buddhist priest. And that's what I've heard, is you have to deal with them correspondingly. I've heard that theory. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah. So if you get cursed, fear the death ghost. If you get cursed by, like, I don't know, a shaman in the Philippines, then your Catholic priest, well, actually maybe a Catholic priest can, because there's a lot of Catholicism in the Philippines, right? But your Buddhist priest will not be able to remove that curse. You seen a Ghost Adventure guy have the EMF machine spike after speaking the language of the country he is in? Oh. Bro was an English spirit and got hit with the 1-2 talisman kill combo and just ignored it because he doesn't understand it. Exactly. Yeah. Gotta call the aesthetic ones, but that's what I've heard before too. But, so, anyways, the point of this story is, I wonder if Peroman's ghost, who could exorcise it? Or is it even exorcisable? That's what I'm wondering. Who could do it? If you get cursed while in the Amazon, while on your obscure vacation, good luck finding someone from that tribe. Oh my gosh! Please, spirit, leave my family be. They're innocent people and don't deserve to suffer for my death. No hablo inglés. No habla inglés. You don't believe in ghosts, but you do believe in beings from different dimensions? I feel like that could be what Paraman dealt with, right? Sorry. We spent so much time on one story, holy smokes. This is just so much fun. Okay. One thing about beings from different dimensions is, did you guys watch Cosmic Princess Kaguya? Kaguya? I don't know if you watched Cosmic Princess Kaguya. Cho Kaguya-sama? But you did? Yeah. So there's like a VR world where that the main characters love to hang out in, right? You think you heard of it? You should watch it. But there's a whole like VR chat world where everything takes place in, right? It takes place between the real world and the VR chat world. Kind of like Sao or like Sword Art Online, right? But the lunar people eventually come to take Kaguya away, and they do it through the VR world. Kaguya's like, they'll probably come get me in the VR world because it's more similar to our dimension. So that got me like wondering, do you think there's some beings that have evolved to only haunt the VR dimension? Is there such thing as real VR horror? I don't know. Digital ghosts, right? Because it's more compatible with their form of existence. That would be so cool. That is pretty scary. Would VR chat be a portal for them to access you? Reminds me of Lane. Kinda does, right? Not yet. Maybe, who knows though? But anyways, let's go on to number 2. We spent an hour on a single submission. Oh no! I totally don't want to get haunted by the Peach Beach Splash Ghosts. Oh. Submission number 2. It is not signed. It is by an anonymous person. And the ghost story is Boo. That's it. That's all. Boo. Supposedly the dimensions overlap, so there are other beings around us, but we can't see them because they are a different parallel dimension. Interesting. That was too scary. I'm crying right now. I don't even want to pull a card. It's too scary. Thank you very much for the submission. Terrified, shaking, crying, and other things. So scary. This submission is in Japanese. Excuse me? Who machine translated their story into Japanese? 昔々その昔あるいの少年がいた。その少年は物語が好きだった。ある日その少年は帰りの時に妙な本を見つけて持って帰ってきた。その本の名は私の物語でした。自分はそう思った。これは面白になりそうかもって。面白そうになりそうかも。Where are my subtitles? I can't translate it on the fly right now. Let's see, let me summarize it for you. This is such a silly story. Excuse me. その本は夕霧の薄い本だったってオチ。私薄い本なんてないわよ。Okay, okay. Long, long ago, the boy loved stories. One day, on his way home, he found a strange book and decided to bring it home with him. The title of the book was My Story. He thought to himself, this might turn out to be interesting. He hurried home. Without realizing it, he never looked behind him. But there was a faint trail of beautiful pitch black mist following him. When he got home, he said to his mother, Mom, look! I found a really good book on the way home. His mother replied, That's wonderful, but before you start reading it, make sure you wash your hands and eat your dinner, okay? This was simply the boy's ordinary daily life. Every day, he would wake up, eat breakfast, take a bath, go outside, and play with his friends until evening, come home, eat dinner, read a book, go to sleep, and repeat it all over again. That day was no different. Nothing strange had happened. He had simply found a new book. And then, that night, the boy finally opened the book and began to read. The contents of the book were... It was a record of everything he did every day. An endless routine. A life where nothing ever changed. Every day was simply the same day, over and over. His real daily life existed only inside his imagination. In reality, every day has always been exactly the same. He is a person who had been living with dead eyes. From an outside perspective, he was nothing more than a motionless person. And that outside was a psychiatric hospital. Thank you. Thank you for your story. This one is fiction, I think. Nice story, though. The rubber room. That's right. It's kind of sad, to be honest, but thank you. Interesting story, though. Okay, alright. Next up. Thank you so much for the little story. Exactly. Now let's talk about Legend of the Ghost Train. Before the trolley, there used to be a railroad traveling back and forth through desert to border, then the canyon, all the way to Arizona. One day, an engineer has the order route to the mountains to deliver cargo to Arizona, but the engineer knew this was the last run during night. This was the last run during night. Something hit the steam locomotive, causing it to derail and crash, killing the engineer. The railroad company went to go investigate. No clues were found. Years later, the steam locomotive was scrapped. Years later, railroad was owned by Southern Pacific Running Freight. including small routes to packing houses, delivering fruit and vegetables. Everything was going good until a hurricane hit the railroad and damaged it. Southern Pacific sold the railroad to the city for $1, and the city used the railroad for a new trolley system. One day, a trolley driver was traveling at night, driving the trolley until the ghost train appeared. Wanted revenge on the railroad and passed the trolley. No one believed him, but the ghost train still runs today. Who said this one? So there's a ghost. Let me get this. Sorry, the ghost train was one that crashed back in the day, right? And you can still see it running to this day. I believe it. It was early on the stream, but you couldn't catch his name. Ah. Thank you for the submission, though. Arigato. Have you ever... There's, a lot of urban myths about trains. A real railroad that's now gone. That's so spooky. There's a lot of, myths about, like, trains and cars and like, marches and stuff, right? I feel like some types of ghosts are just a memory of the ghost playing out its last days over and over. And I feel like this is what's happening here. Is that the ghost is just replaying its last moments over and over. Yeah. Some ghosts do feel like they have an intent, but some just feel like they're doing the same thing again and again and again, right? You hear about, like, some old war, like, battlefields, especially in, like, the USA. You hear about, what was it, like the Civil War, like battlefields, and people thought that, like, they would see, like, the whole thing play out, and they thought it was in, like, a reenactment, but there was no reenactment, like, scheduled that day, right? Old habits die harder than some people do. Exactly. Yeah, they're trapped in the loop of their old demise. You have a friend who swears they met a ghost at Gettysburg. That is scary. There's a law in Japan, too. A soul that lives in the past, one that lives on loop, ones that cannot accept and move on. I do wonder if it's, actually the spirit itself, or more like a trace of it. Maybe the spirit itself has already moved on, but its trace still does that. like a shockwave. Yeah, the energy of the event existing. A remnant, yeah. Exactly, like a memory. Your elderly neighbor used to tell you that there's a place where you could see soldiers marching at wee hours. I've heard of that too. There's like the night marchers in Hawaii. Spooky. Where they march down the mountains, and if you see the lights, like the flames of their torches, or hear the drums coming, then you're supposed to basically strip and dogeza so that they don't take you. take off all your clothes and like bow down on the ground and like cover your head. Yeah, if you come across the night marchers, you're supposed to. That's what you're supposed to do. And they still might take you if you're not of Hawaiian blood. It has to be a myth, but there's a lot of witnesses though. But anyways, let's move on. Okay. Oh my gosh. This one is long. Oh no, it's just formatted in with an extra space. They target tourists? No. They don't target tourists, but supposedly they might let you go if you have Hawaiian blood. Then you're okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh! Demon Warrior! I have your submission here. Let's take a look at it. Okay. Hang on. Alright. You guys ready? Oops. Oops, I turned off the fire. Love. Right. No Hashak-sama for you. There's a new Hashak-sama game, isn't there? Alright, thank you Demon Warrior for your submission. A friend told me this story. Now I get to share it. Story writing by Demon Warrior. Here's his story. I don't tell this story very often because it still messes with me, even though it happened years ago. Most people either laugh or try to explain it away, and honestly, I wish I could do the same. This happened when I was 19, still living with my parents. We lived in a pretty normal house at the end of a dead-end road. There are only a handful of houses on our street, and behind ours was nothing but woods. We lived there for almost 10 years, and nothing strange had ever happened before this. One night, my parents had gone to bed early, and I stayed downstairs playing video games. It was around 1 in the morning when I finally turned everything off and headed upstairs. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks on the front door. Not loud, not someone pounding to be let in. Just knock, knock, knock. I figured maybe someone needed help. We were close to a highway, so I thought maybe a car had broken down. I looked through the little window besides the front door. Nobody. The porch lit up the whole front yard. Our cars were in the driveway. Nothing else. I even opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. It was completely quiet. No footsteps, no engine, no voices, just crickets. I shrugged it off, locked the door, and went upstairs. Maybe 5 minutes later, the same 3 knocks. Exactly the same. This time, they sounded a little louder. I remember thinking someone had to be messing with us. I grabbed a flashlight and walked all the way around the outside of the house. The grass was wet from the evening dew. there wasn't a single footprint anywhere on the porch or the yard. That was the first time I got that weird feeling in my stomach. The next morning, I asked my dad if he'd heard anyone knocking during the night. He looked at me for a second and asked, "Did you open the door?" I laughed. Yeah, why? He didn't answer right away. Finally, he just said, "Next time, don't." I thought he was joking. My dad wasn't the type to believe in ghosts or anything like that, so hearing him say that felt off. About a week went by before it happened again. 1 in the morning, 3 knocks. This time, I ignored them. About 30 seconds later, except they weren't coming from the front door anymore. They were coming from the back door. I just sat there, frozen. There was no way someone could have run around the house that fast without making noise. I looked through the kitchen window. Nothing. The backyard? Empty. The woods? Perfectly still. No wind. No animals. And then, right behind me, from the hallway, inside the house. I never felt fear like that before. Your brain immediately starts trying to explain it. Maybe the house settling. Maybe it's pipes. Maybe somebody actually got inside. I searched every room, every closet, the basement, the attic. Nothing. Nobody. I didn't sleep at all that night. A couple days later, my parents agreed to let me put security cameras outside. For almost 2 weeks, they never caught anything. Then, one morning, I checked the recordings. At exactly 1:03 a.m., every outside camera froze at the same time. 43 seconds later, they all came back. The front door was wide open. None of us remembered opening it. The inside camera never showed it opening. One frame, it was shut. The next, it was standing open. No one walked through it. Nothing. Just open. My dad checked every lock on the house after that. He even replaced the deadbolt. He never admitted it scared him, but I noticed he started checking every door twice before going to bed. Months went by without another incident. Eventually, I convinced myself it was all over. It's done. Then, one night, before I left for college, I was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep. Around 1 in the morning, I heard knocking again. Only this time, it wasn't just 3 knocks. It sounded like someone was walking around slowly outside the house, tapping on every window. Tap, 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 tap. The sound made one complete circle around the house. When it reached my bedroom window, it stopped. I held my breath for what felt like forever. Then, something lightly dragged its fingernails across the glass. Just once. I never looked. I couldn't. The next morning, I asked my mom if she'd heard anything. She got really quiet. Then, she admitted she'd been hearing those knocks for years. She and my dad never said anything because they didn't want us kids to be scared. I asked my dad later why he told me not to answer the door. He stared at me for a long time before he finally spoke. When we first moved in, he said, I answered those knocks too. I asked him who it was. He shook his head. There wasn't anybody there. Then he looked me straight in the eyes and said something I've never forgotten. It doesn't matter if you don't see anyone. What matters is that something knows you answered. I moved out not long after that. My parents still live in that house. Every time I visit, I leave before midnight. They never asked me why. And I never had the courage to ask them if the knocking ever really stopped. That was Demon Warrior's friend's story. Thank you for telling it to us. I'm starting to see like some similarities. Again, sell that house. Absolutely chilling, but at the same time, if he lived there for years and multiple people have answered it, but they're still alive, they're doing okay, right? So maybe it's not that harmful. It's kind of the impression that I'm getting. You asked the same thing? Like, there's no scratches on their chest or anything like that? That's what I'm wondering, though. It doesn't seem to hate them. I do wonder, like, maybe it is kind of like a troll, and they're just like, look at me! Look at me! Oh, you see me? Well, let me play a little joke on you then. That's what I feel like too. But I do feel like the more you acknowledge it, maybe the worse it can get. Right? I should try to contact the people from No Sleep subreddit and apply to narrate some of those stories that go to No Sleep podcast. Really? Why, thank you. It's been following the parents for years? Oh. I wonder what it could be there. What if it's like... What if it's not, like, malicious? It's scary, it's spooky because you don't know what it is? Or what if it's actually not... What if it's friendly? It's been following, like, across properties? Is there any story in Japanese? There was one! But... I translated it. It does have whimsy. I mean, claws are kind of scary, though. It's one of those that you can't answer. There's a lot of, like, again, fairies that are like that. Oh, why do I keep getting major arcana? That is insane. I pulled the moon card out of it, which does make me feel like why do I keep getting major arcana from this? This is so spooky. Crazy. And I cut my deck well too. Okay, so moon kind of gives me the impression that it is actually a spooky being. It's about like, you know, illusions, mystery, uncertainty, confusion. Ooh. I am getting an unfriendly vibe after all. You tried to written as many simple Japanese as possible. Ah, arigato. Thank you. Thank you. I already read it. It was the psychiatric word, seishinka, right? It was good. Interesting. Moon also gives me like not so spiritual realm as it is like, again, another worldly dimension. I don't get spirit vibes from this. I get creatures of the night that go bump, right? Feeling. I don't think it was a friendly being after all. Very interesting. And I also get the vibe that it would take somebody if it got the opportunity to. It would take somebody if it had the chance. So, yeah, don't acknowledge it. Just like how vampires have to be invited to come inside the house, right? Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you so much. It could be the location. I do think it is location. Yours is fictional? That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, don't let them in. But maybe the rules aren't too rigid because he let them in already once. And you can tell that it came inside. But then it needed to be let in again. The moral of the story is inside the mind is never watched what match with reality. It was so spooky. It was kind of like bittersweet. Alright, let's move on to the next one. This one is a short one. That was very well written, by the way, Demon Warrior. Thank you so much. Alright. This story is about a nightmare I had while in high school. The context is that during the dream, I was completely unable to move and hearing sounds of rumbling. My vision obscured by a black void that only periodically moved up and down. And after a while, I realized I was stuck inside a mouth of a large beast or monster. The dream only ended after some time, and I'm unsure how such a dream even came to pass. Calmly. That's the end of that story. Short one, but a goodie though. Interesting. Sleep paralysis for real. It was slimy. Ew. Ew. Hang on, I have to keep clearing my throat. You love sleep paralysis? I heard that you have to, you could slip into lucid dreaming from sleep paralysis or astral projecting. Your high school life, you constantly had that from lack of sleep? Yeah, you can astral project or lucid dream from sleep paralysis, is what I've heard before. You kinda can. That'd be so cool though. You had lucid dreams twice from that? Was it nice? You never had a paralysis dream happen? You can lucid dream a lot? Interesting. Oh. Yeah, it does make sense because you're trying to get free, right? Ooh, I feel like I have to go do a purification after some of these stories. It's not really worth it. Easier to just force yourself to wake up out of sleep paralysis. But the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projecting is that astral projecting is supposedly unlike the real world. Like you can fly out of your body and actually go visit real places. Isn't there like a conspiracy theory that government is trying to train people to astral project to be spies? You can't astral project, but you can recreate a 3D map of the location and essentially looking at it from a third-person view based on the information around. Oh, interesting. So you can do remote viewing. Yeah, they declassified the files. True, they did. I want to practice remote viewing. I should remote view into Yemen. Wait, so Suimiru, you can remote view then? I want to practice remote viewing. That would be so cool. Try it. That would be a neat power. Yeah. That one was not a hypothesis. It's real. They failed because they really want to stop the war. That's so crazy. We're gonna have to set up safe words for that. Permissions. The thing about sleep paralysis is you have trouble waking up, you know, you are awake. You just have to have a hard time waking up. I have really frightened and frustrated myself to wake up. That is scary. I have had some like sleep paralysis like dreams before too, but I don't have I'm having trouble remembering my dreams recently. Yeah, you're inside your dreams. I have tried dream walking. Visiting. I have tried to do dream walking before. Be so funny. A good night's rest is the real superpower. Yeah. If you have sleep paralysis, you can break out by either putting all your efforts to move your neck or fingers. No, I think it's because my sleep schedule is kind of messed up. I feel like when I sleep at a normal time, I can remember my dreams, but... And also like B vitamins too. B vitamins are supposed to help you like remember your dreams too. Remote view can be done. It's a lot of information taken, but it can be drunk. It can be done. Oh. My sleep schedule is so bad that I do think my sleep is suffering from it, or like my sleep quality is suffering from it. Dream walking. You gotta get some Vegemite for this B vitamins. I started taking some B vitamins because I was low. I don't think I have a good, like, digestive system for processing protein. You get into a specific spot on your pillow. Yeah. I need to go back to a normal sleep schedule. But thank you so much for the submission, Kamui-san. Okay. I have another one from Kamui. Let's hear it. The story involves my house during the winter, where after some wandering time in the dream, has my house end up falling down a cliff with seemingly no bottom. Eventually, I would also end falling out of the house and would continue falling down the endless cliffs, even rolling down the snowy hills. Thankfully, the dream ends with me ending up in an RPG-like town after falling down like that for some time. But the dream sadly ended right as I got my bearings after falling down that cliff. Were you falling into a different dimension? That would have been fun. Remember? I don't know if you read this story, but I remember reading an article about a girl. He got dream isekai'd. It reminds me of this one girl who lived, I believe, 8 years, 8 or 11, but she lived 11 years in her dream, in a single dream. Yeah, the one that was in a coma. That's right. Yeah. And she was in a coma for only a couple weeks, right? Or a couple months? I can't remember the details. But in her dream, she lived for 11 years, got married, had kids, had a whole life inside this dream, was living as a mother of 2. Yeah, and she woke up crying. She woke up crying because that whole life was a lie. Poor girl, right? Was she in a parallel dimension during that time? You've had many versions of that story in my dreams. Isn't that insane? She woke up in 2016 and said, we're gonna have COVID in 2020. That would have been crazy. But that's so sad, though. She had a whole life. She lived an entire lifetime in her dream while she was comatose. And she misses her kids and her husband and everything. That is so devastating. Yeah? Right? But I'm just like, wow. So my question is, was she actually in another dimension and she had to come back to her dimension when she woke up in her body? Or was it actually a dream? I don't know. Crazy. Interesting story though, but that's what your story reminds me of, Kamui. Who knows? Thank you so much for the submission. Alright, let's keep going. I have a feeling I'm only gonna get through like half of these today. You dreamed the whole 20 years in one night? Like a Bleach manga-like world? Your family got killed and trained for vengeance? Wow. That's insane. What if someone possessed her in that dream and they were trying to get out of our world, right? Most interesting part is dreaming only happens in specific sleep states, which are likely not possible in a coma. Oh, interesting. Unless she was in REM the whole time. which is weird. Will there be a part 2? I will definitely go through all of these on stream. There will definitely be a part 2. Part 2. Part 2? Part 2. Because these are fascinating too. You know what? Next week, maybe next week, same day, same time. How about it? We can do next week again. Oh wait, maybe not next week. It might have to be next week, Friday. I forgot Wednesday. I want to keep Petalight on the same day. So maybe it'll be a Friday or Saturday thing instead. Maybe Saturday. But anyways, sometime next week for real. Yeah. Wednesday is Petalight. Thursday is Resident Evil. Friday, we're gonna resume... whatchamacallit? We're gonna resume 13 Sentinels. Or maybe we can do it on Friday. We can do it on Friday and then finally resume 13 Sentinels after. But it'll be next week for real. Okay. Next story. Next story. A short, silly story where I ended up in a liminal space with brick walls and pillars with one glass door. I'm sorry. Let me start over. Go in. Hang on, I need a drink. Friday or Saturday? Book the... Just keep your evening open, okay? A short, silly story where I ended up in a liminal space with brick walls and pillars, with one glass wall and door leading to a room. During this dream, I was being chased by a zombie, but said zombie had the head of a shrimp instead of a human face. This dream happened when I was young, so maybe I had a fear of seafood back in the day. The dream ended after getting to the room with the glass windows and door, and in the middle of struggling with shrimp-headed zombie. Ooh, spooky! Terrifying. Thank you so much for the submission. Okay, big shrimp would be scary though. Okay, to be honest, resident shrimp. To be quite honest though, I think if a man-sized shrimp existed, then they would most definitely take us down. They would most definitely eat us. A shrimple submission. You know how they say about cats? A cat-sized dog would be just, or I'm sorry, a dog-sized cat would most definitely hunt you down and kill you and probably eat you. That's just a cook. Exactly. That's why cats are scary. Good thing they're tiny. That's just keeping an actual tiger as a pet. True. That's waiting for an accident to happen. Now we have a longer story. I don't know who submitted this, but you don't have to come out if you don't want to. This one is called Crossroads Ghost. Now, before we start the story, crossroads are like an important part of like hoodoo rituals or voodoo rituals. Your cat is kind of big, really. Classic spookery location, yeah. You know, I don't know if I think I told this story before, but I did a whole voodoo ritual to get a traffic case against me dismissed one time. And part of the ritual, because I was speeding too high above the speed limit, and it was a court appearance instead of an actual ticket, right? Okay, and modern problems require antiquated solutions. Yeah. So I got caught for speeding once. Sorry, sometimes I was not a very good ninja at that point. Right? 片揚げ麦茶さん。ありがとうございます。But so part of the ritual involved taking this special herbal bath. What do you mean? Oh no. No. So part of the ritual included taking this like special herbal bath, and then taking that bath water and taking the bath water to a crossroads and throwing it over your shoulder and never looking back and just going straight home after. And I thought it was interesting. So it did involve crossroads, and I had to give an offering at that crossroads too of some like, was it like tobacco and whiskey? You have to give a offering of tobacco and whiskey at the crossroads first before you dump the bath water. The 7 secret herbs and spices will ward off the evil traffic spirits. What a lucky rail. It's not a railroad, no. Any street that's shaped like a plus sign. Yeah. But there's supposedly a god or being that waits at crossroads, right? Or rules over crossroads. What kind of whiskey did you offer? Fireball. I was not rich, okay? Intersections. Yeah. Mine was just an intersection. Take my single Marlboro and this mini Jack Daniels. No, that's literally what I did. Because I don't smoke and I didn't drink whiskey at that time. So I literally had to go buy it myself. But it worked. It worked though. When I showed up to court, the judge just said, "Be careful next time," and dismissed it. It worked. So, I like whiskey. I like whiskey now. Back then I didn't. I only developed whiskey like in the last couple years. But anyways, so Crossroads. You would have 100% been arrested or even charged with damages if you didn't do that. Right? That's what I'm saying! Did the Marlboro and Jack Daniels cost more or less than the ticket? 1000% less. 1000% less. I would have had to pay so much. But it worked. It worked for me. Anyways, but Crossroads are a powerful place. That's all I want to say. There's definitely somebody watching over Crossroads. No points! No points! I didn't even have to, like, take a class or anything. Okay. It was in the middle of August. This story happened around 2 years ago now. It was a fairly hot day of... Gomen, let me start over. It was the middle of August the story happened. Around 2 years ago now. It was a fairly hot day at the time. So I decided it would be a good day to have a drink or two. I got ready and left the house, heading towards the local liquor store, which was located near the edge of town beside the gas station. Now, for some clarification, the town I currently live in, which is a rather small place, is one of those older towns in North America that for some reason does not have sidewalks running north-south. From my understanding, this is mostly because at the time sidewalks were initially added in, the cost was placed upon the landowner, so many people chose not to pay for the addition of a sidewalk. For those inclined, you may notice the problem here. This means, when walking north to south, anytime you encounter a four-way stop, you are essentially at a crossroads. This is where the story begins. While I had walked this path many times before, this was my first time walking it during the summer, especially a hot summer at the time, but nothing had really triggered my senses. However, upon crossing the first four-way stop, I began to have this really odd feeling, almost like being watched. Initially, I had ignored it. I had odd feelings before, and this was probably nothing. But eventually, I had the curiosity, or perhaps the inclination, to check behind me. Walking on the road behind me, maybe 15 to 20 feet away, was a woman. Nothing really stood out about her. She was exactly what you expect to see in the heat. Women in a t-shirt and shorts, short hair, some glasses. But every single alarm bell in my head started to ring. Maybe it was the smile. She was smiling. It shouldn't have been all that odd. Often, you hear stories where the smile is off proportion, or how some part of this person isn't right. This wasn't the case here. She looked totally normal, but the smile was still off in some way. Something about it just didn't sit right. I think the emotion would be called uncanny. Still, I ignored her and continued on my way, passing 2 other four-way stops, turning right, and eventually reached the store and bought what I needed. I hadn't bothered to check behind me after I had turned to the right, since whether natural or supernatural, I didn't want to bother attracting whomever I had seen. However, on the way back, after I had passed the second four-way stop, I suddenly had a feeling, almost like ice, crawl down my back. I immediately turned my head, and there, at the first four-way stop from the way back, was the same woman, smiling just as before. It was almost like she had warped from where I had seen her at the initial four-way to this one. It was completely possible this was a real person who had simply been following the same path as me. Maybe not to the liquor store since I hadn't seen her there, but to at least the gas station. In some managed time, this entire venture to also coincide with our timings at these four-way stops. Needless to say, whatever this person or thing was, I was going to have nothing to do with it. So I sped up my pace and went home. However, while I would like to say that was the end of it, in some ways, it wasn't. While I certainly did not welcome it to my home, apparently that wasn't a concern of whatever this was. For around 2 weeks, every night I had this horrible feeling of whatever this thing was standing outside the door to my basement suite. I'm not sure how it managed to enter. Perhaps my upstairs neighbors had let it in inadvertently without knowing. But it was there, ready to enter. I don't really know if it even really cared for things like boundaries. In some ways, I know the only reason that it didn't enter was that something even scarier was waiting for it on the other side. However, in this case, that something was on my side. Eventually this thing left, apparently dissuaded of its chances of entering my basement suite. I hadn't seen the thing since. Ooh. And that's the end of that story. Interesting. Cats can be scary. Unironically though, I have heard of cats like either warding off something evil or chasing something that you can't see. Always feed your house story, your house spirit. I have heard that some people are most definitely protected. That they have something on their shoulder. Like, I used to have a cousin who unfortunately passed away due to health issues, but they would say like, oh, there's a dragon on your shoulder to like somebody else, not to me. Unfortunately, I do not have a dragon on my shoulder, but place a crossroad in the house, surrounded by 4 walls, cross it and force the entity to get stuck in walls. Do you think they would be stuck in walls though? But they would say like, oh, that person, they have a dragon on their shoulder. Just like, oh, how you can see that? But I do wonder, in this case, does this person have some kind of entity on their back. You thought, yeah, I had a dragon on it? I wish I did. That would be so cool. Be like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Then I would be like, I have a stand. This person definitely has a stand. That would be so cool. I'm like, I want a stand. I want a stand too. No dragon, but maybe a fox. I would have a fox on my shoulder, huh? It sounds cool. That is so cool. But thank you for the story. Very interesting. But like I said, crossroads. Crossroads are supposedly, you know, actual physical crossroads are also spiritual crossroads too. Where people come and go from. They're like portals to another dimension. You got a hamster on your shoulder? Way of the Edge legit sounds like a stand name. It kind of does, doesn't it? That's my stand. Way of the Edge. But thank you so much. Let's see. When going gets the hater gets going. Let's see what the next story is. I'm on story 10 out of 26. So I think we will do 13 stories. We'll do half of them today, and then next week we'll finish up the other half. I know, we're not even halfway. We'll do 13 tonight. 13 is a good number. I think so too. Yeah. 13 is a suitably spooky number. Right? Even split. So, let's get going. Let me grab a drink. The chilling continues, exactly. When does Obong end? Let me see. Obong. Obong already passed. But wait, no, this year. Oh, okay, but Obon in Okinawa is August 25th through August 27th. Interesting. So we're still in Obon season. Most of Japan it was 13 to 16. So we just passed the window of Obon, but in mainland Japan, 13 through 16. So that passed, but we're still in the time period though. The hospital you work at skips 13 for operating rooms. Dang. We get that Okinawa Obon. We're still in the time period though. Very interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of regional differences. Hang on, I have a hiccup coming. Okay. People die in those rooms? That's terrifying. We're gonna end on story 13. This is story number 10. Alright. The Fae. I don't even know if this counts as a ghost story, to be honest. In some ways, it's not even scary. For me, it's a real lived experience that still happens to this day. I think when people think of the word fairy or fae, or any of these terms, our idea of them is closer to pixies, tiny little bugs with magical wings that function on some premise of belief. They're not really like that, though. They don't really look all that different from us, which perhaps is a bit scarier. The idea that we don't actually know who they are. For me, my first encounter with a fairy was in a dream. I was 17, freshly out of being religious after seeing the darker side of it, and living in a loft with my father. It was a simple dream. I was simply at a dance, probably circa the 18th century in some grand hall, dancing with a beautiful woman. At the end of the dance, the dream ended abruptly, but it felt so real that I was willing to wake up my father up in the middle of the night to tell him I had met the love of my life. I managed to realize that had been all a dream and didn't wake him up. And for the most part, this dream slowly faded over time. Fast forward 2 years, I was attending university for music. My first year I had been in a recording science, but I had successfully shifted to composition, which was what I had wanted to really study. It was the summer, that same year that I had this dream. It started somewhat ambiguous. I was in some non-descriptive manner, although I could tell it was constructed probably in some British or French style, Victorian style. It had the perfectly manicured gardens. It was basically a set out of a period drama. I more or less had explored the outdoors, but I went in and found the tea room. Inside, sitting there, was exactly the same person I danced with several years ago. She hadn't really changed. She had the same striking green eyes, blonde hair, and a Victorian red dress as when I had seen her before. Now, this is where the fairy thing is confusing. She did look shorter than the average person, but also older, which sounds super weird unless you've seen this. I didn't even know if this was an offer. She wanted to be entertained. She felt that the music I wrote entertained her. That was the deal, more or less. I don't even know if I ever agreed to this deal. But this was the deal we had. Whenever she's bored, she visits my dreams, and I play for her whatever my mind can think of. But upon my awakening, I don't remember any of it. Now, I think this sounds crazy. I could even chalk it up to my own mind. But the weirdest part of the story comes from my ex-girlfriend. I was extremely busy working on my graduation recital and was burning the midnight oil. And one day, when I was cooking breakfast, I asked her if she'd had a good sleep, to which she said, "No." When I asked why, she proceeded to describe the exact same setting as my dream with this fairy. But the difference was, when they met, the fairy asked the same thing. "Entertain me." And when she tried, the fairy became extremely exasperated. Eventually, my girlfriend snapped and asked, "Well, why don't you get someone else to entertain you?" And the girl responded, "I would, but he's busy and I don't want to bother him." I had never told her about any encounter with this lady because it sounds insane. And even then, I kept my mouth shut. Even after this all, She still sticks around with me, honestly, in the weirdest ways. These are all 3 short stories of how she's shown up. When I first visited my dad, after he moved back to his hometown, we were staying at his friend's farm. The first night I fell asleep, but woke up shortly after. There was some lost girl at my bedside. I don't know how the spirit got here, but I asked her to look after her, and after that the weird feelings subsided, and I fell back asleep. They've both shown up in my dreams later, almost like a master and apprentice. During my dreams, especially demonic, she almost interjects like some kind of guardian, interrupting the entire dream flow. Probably the dream I remember the most. The demon got panicked. It seemed to recognize her, but it's scared of her. But she's not demonic. That's just what scared it the most. This was just a week ago. I was falling asleep, and in my sleep I hear something like the phrase, "What about him?" And I could feel something staring at me out of the corner of my room. And as I started to wake up to look at him, I heard, "You aren't here," and felt that force pushed out of my space. Oh, and that's the end of the story. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa, Pizza. Interesting. I wouldn't say it's a scary story, but my first thought is, why is Beatrice visiting you? Excuse me? That's my Beato. Friendliest one, I've heard of these, right? It's an exchange, I guess, of some sort. Literally Beato. Next time she comes, try calling her by her name. Try saying Beato, Beatrice. What is she though? What does she want from you? I mean, I think it's kind of obvious. What does she want from you? Is she your guardian? As long as you play music for her? Ask her to visit a certain ninja. Good thing you have like a music fairy. What do we got? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? I got Emperor again. She's a queen. She's a queen for sure. Maybe she's a king. What the hell? Why do I keep getting the same thing? Wait. And the second card is Justice. Like I had a card that just fell out. This is insane because like I mix them well. The cards aren't sticky. Do not stop entertaining them. I agree. That's insane. Justice is a jumper, right? Wow, very cool though. Actually, very cool. Alright, thank you so much for the story. Let's move on to number 11. Okay. Right? That is a powerful guardian. I would say that's really amazing though. I kind of want to do more readings on that too at some point. Alright. Next story. We have here just as an emperor isn't a fairy, that's a guardian angel. It's funny how it's emperor and not like empress. But I do feel like Empress has a very different feel card-wise. Like it's more like a mother, whereas the Emperor and like it's more nurturing. So I'm guessing Empress doesn't really fit her personality because Emperor is much more stern, much more scary to me. The basement suite was scarier than the crossroads thing. Yeah, I guess it was her, huh? Like, king and queen are not. I remember reading a fantasy story before where kings and queens were not bound by their gender. It was more of a role. Like I'm not after being a queen, I'm after being king. So it kind of reminds me of that. It was some fantasy story I read a long time ago. And see your point? Yeah, exactly. Very cool though. Because king is higher up than queen. Gender is probably a joke to something like a fairy. I would think so too. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one does not have a author. I was sleeping one night, and then, out of a jolt from a probable nightmare, I woke up. It was dark, but I could still make out the silhouette of my brother standing in front of the door. Static. Almost as if he didn't recognize me staring at him. I thought it was just him waking up to go to the bathroom, so I went to sleep again. Problem was that he was sleeping on the top bunk bed. Whenever I saw that night, it was probably my brother's soul that left his body to go somewhere that I didn't know. It never happened again after we each separated into our own rooms. Whoa. Interesting. Do you think it was actually your brother? Or was it something else? Did it feel like your brother's spirit? Or was it something imitating? You know the story of Hashak-sama? Hashak-sama borrows the voices of people that you know. To try to coax you to open the door or open the window. I wonder if it was something like that. Where this entity instead borrowed the appearance of your brother so they can get in, right? Right? He was just staring into the door. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing. So nothing like that ever happened again? Or maybe it was your brother and he was astral projecting. I've heard of people who have a dream where they astral project themselves to go use the bathroom while they're sleeping, but they themselves didn't use the bathroom. I was wondering if that was happening. You have a technical explanation to it, but it revolves around religion. Really? Oh. You have dreams you're going to be? Yeah! And they're like, I I swear, I went to the bathroom. I swear I walked to the bathroom and used it, huh? Yeah, very interesting though. Good story, good story. Okay. Oh, mind if I say this? We have a story from your dreams where you use the washroom. When you wake up, you're always thankful nothing is wet. Yeah, the religion you follow believes that we are essentially spirits inside meat husks of body. Okay, that's pretty. Essentially, what happened is that the soul leaves the body to go to the great beyond. It seems pretty, like, pretty recurrent across many religions, right? Yeah. Good night, please. Yasumi. Yasumi. So he left his body. We do come back to wake up. So, what metaphysical people would call astral projecting, then, basically. Isha. Yeah, glad he found his way back that night. Alright. Can I say the name of this? Or is that a shh mark on it? Noruo-san? I will immediately specify that this story happened at my old address, which has a cathedral further down our street that survived direct contact from a carpet bombing in World War II. Oh, this is gonna be spooky. Everything around it was turned to ruins, rubble, and sand. I picked this story out of many because the story has witnesses and the least amount of graphic triggers. It was a certain solstice calendar day, of which I told my brother and 2 other friends to stay inside. They didn't want to listen and thought they could macho their way out of this one. So I grabbed my 4 chains with reinforced eagle-shaped crests at the end of them and went with them. We went to buy some drinks and also some funny herbs and returned towards our street as things were already starting to fade. They weren't paying attention to anything, just wrapped up in their conversation. My ears were hearing cars that drove around and passed by us, but I wasn't seeing them. It made me nervous. The moment we turned the corner to our home address, the clock hits midnight on my phone. A slight mist came to our knees. The car sounds and honking in the background doubled and faded out to a weird echo, the walls looking shitty. About 15 steps later, I finally interrupted their yap session a bit rudely and asked, "Are you guys sure that you just don't want to notice any of this shit?" I gave them direct orders of what to look at until it connected with their senses and told them to take a very careful and strong look of where they were heading without looking ahead. Lo and behold, on the playground, across from that cathedral, there was an 8-foot-tall, pale woman with black hair as long as her height. She looked like a typical onryo at the first look, but To my focus, she had no mouth, no nose, just one eye. And she was flat on the ground, with her limbs turned in weird ways and severely injured fashion. Naturally speaking, these three guys were petrified because they wouldn't know what to do but hope to see something move in a way that's commonly familiar. Like plastic in the wind or fake hair. I said, okay, let's cut the BS. We've been in the static between real life and limbo for almost 7 minutes because you didn't want to listen to me. Not my first rodeo, by the way. If I was evil, I would have left you guys here as food, since you're not able to sense what is exactly going on. They were leaning and almost took a step backwards. I immediately told them sternly to never do that in this realm. I sighed, briefly shook my head, and said, since those morals are currently irrelevant, do you guys want to go home? Or do you want me to roll the dice and give you guys a show until the sky turns red? Her hair was now moving slowly like tentacles in the air as the temperature dropped. Their eyes were now peeled, and their complexions even turned a few gradients lighter. The oldest one in our group immediately said, no, don't, we're going home. I smiled and nodded. Then, let's return home as children of loving parents. We then dapped up, and I reminded them to enter the house backwards. Also to never speak of that experience in detail for at least 5 weeks. The moment we closed our front doors and blinked once, everything was back to normal. We didn't even hear or notice the last car entering our street. It seems the driver noticed my door opening and closing without seeing me or my brother. P.S. The cathedral and its abbey are still haunted and cursed. Ooh, and that's the end of this story. There's a lot to unpack in this one. The idea of, spirited away or wandering into the other realm, it's actually pretty common. I think every culture has a story like that of getting spirited away. They call it kamikakushi. Yeah, so you end up crossing into a parallel realm. There's the elevator, like, creepypasta of where you input certain, certain floors in an elevator, and then it'll eventually open to a different realm. Something like that. But the way that this story is written, it sounds like that this just happens in their town sometimes. They went to Silent Hill. And basically get Silent Hill. It sounds like it just happens in their town sometimes. Like it's a normal day, and then they're not allowed to go outside during a certain time. Interesting. Spoopy. But I'm glad you made it back okay. Not the, oh man, not again. I feel like it reminds me of a story somebody else told recently-ish. I can't remember though about like how literally the whole town stays inside. I think it was somebody who grew up in Mexico was talking about about the incident that happened like a long time during, what was it, like clubbing with the devil or something like that? It kind of reminds me of that story. I forgot who told it. It was one of you. The incident where the devil went clubbing. So ever since then, they're not allowed to like club at certain times of the day. I forgot who told it though. Damn it. But good story. Okay. Thank you, thank you. Now we have one last tale. Oh, this will be interesting. You heard the cartel ceases all activities. That's so true. Shut up. Oh yeah. That was you, John. Jeong. It was an actual legend in my city. Yeah. That one. Crossing the threshold backwards through the door is also a thing in voodoo to close realms. Yeah. It is. I remember when you're, in certain rituals require, graveyard dirt, right? But to harvest the graveyard dirt, you have to give an offering to the person who you're stealing the dirt from. And then when you're leaving the graveyard, you should like spin 3 times to throw off their path and don't go home straight, right? You shouldn't head straight home. You have to like go wander a little bit so they don't follow you. I would go to a friend's house or something. Yeah, you gotta lose their tail. So you give them offerings, take the dirt, spin around 3 times while leaving the graveyard, and go to someone else's house. Do you also salt your feet and legs? It's probably a good idea to do so. Anyways, this is my last story for the day. Last submission for today because, oh my god, whispering does take a toll on your voice too. It's good skincare. I think it's a little drying. If you want, I can write the story and link it in the Discord. Yeah, that would be fun. Please do. Or you can submit it to the Google form too for next time. Whispering is so hard on my voice. It hurts. It hurts. Okay. Last one. Encounter with a penanggal. For some context, I live in Malaysia and I'm a religious person. Back when I was in secondary school, I lived in a boarding school. Every weekend, my friends would go jogging early in the morning, around 5 to 6 a.m. I wasn't a very active person, so I rarely joined them. One day, however, I suddenly felt like going for a jog. I asked my friends if they wanted to come, but strangely, they all said they were too tired and wanted to keep sleeping. So I decided to jog by myself. Our usual route was from the school to a small food stall owned by our school security guard's wife. We'd take a short break there, have breakfast, and then jog back to school together. Our school was in a remote area surrounded by dense forest. The distance between the school and the food stall was only about 3 kilometers, so the whole trip should have taken around an hour. But that morning, something felt wrong. As I jogged, the journey seemed unusually long, as if the destination kept getting further away. I also noticed that everything around me looked much darker than usual. I kept running until I heard something strange, a loud neigh from what sounded like a horse. Immediately, I remembered what the elders in my family had always told me. If you hear the sound of a horse in the forest, that could be a penanggal. A penanggal is a supernatural being from Malay folklore. It appears as a flying human head with its internal organs hanging beneath its neck. According to the old stories, if the horse-like cry sounds loud, the penanggal is still far away. But if the sound is soft, it means it is very, very close. The sound I heard was terrifyingly soft. I stopped for a moment to look around. Then, without warning, I felt something breathing on the back of my neck. The breath was hot, heavy, and sounded like it belonged to a wild beast. I didn't dare turn around. Instead, I lowered my head and kept jogging. At first, I moved slowly. Then I broke into a full sprint while silently reciting prayers in my heart. A few minutes later, I finally reached the food stall. I told the security guard everything that had happened. He didn't say a word. After we finished breakfast, he took me back to school on his bike. The only thing he said was, "From now on, don't ever go jogging by yourself again." Spooky, chilling. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. Dang. I do believe that one. Don't mess around with those things. You know, like, one thing that I find interesting between, like, English witching hours and Japanese ushinokoku, which is the hour of the ox, they're basically the same time. Isn't that a killer in DVD? Where do you think the killer in DVD got their inspiration from? Where do you think DVD got their inspiration from? But, yeah, so the thing about, like, these odd hours is that they're all almost the same time frame. It's like somewhere between 1 to 3 a.m. Witching hours, hour of the ox. Maybe other cultures also have that time frame where supposedly all those spooky things happen. Yeah. You all have one too? Some things, it's not that deep. They just really want to hurt you. Other times, they're a little more complex. That's the darkest period of the night. True. Yup. 1 to 3 a.m. seems pretty common, right? Exactly. Is there a witching hour during the day? Not necessarily, no. But the whole jogging during the wee hours have to, it reminds me of a story that I also heard about how someone went jogging at the Fushimi Inari Shrine in Kyoto, which is a very, it's a very famous spot in Kyoto. If you recognize it, it's the shrine that has the whole, like, path of red tories. Red tories. Yeah, you know that one? I'm sure. Here, let me pull up an image. It's the photo stop. And, you know. But anyways, there was a local person there that was jogging. You seen the pictures? Yeah, that was jogging. And they're local to the area in Kyoto. It's got all the crazy steps. Yeah. Like this one, right? Sorry, I'm sorry if you heard my stomach rumbling. Gumen, I'm hungry. Oh, that is a huge image. It's full of tourists now? So... This one. It is full of tourists, yes. It's always been a tourist attraction, this place. So you know that one. But it was so packed when you went. Yeah. So I do remember hearing a story about a jogger who was a local to the area. They were jogging in the wee hours of the morning, and that's how it's cool. Yeah. So for some reason they usually don't go in the Fushimi Inari Shrine when they're jogging, but they happen to be jogging past it, and for some reason, instead of going on their usual route, they headed towards inside the shrine. Now this is in like this is midnight. I'm sorry, I am also a midnight runner too. It does have a backpack. Yeah, it does. But so they were jogging through it, and they're jogging and jogging, and they're pretty familiar because they're local in the area. But after a while, like, they couldn't find their way back. And like, it's kind of like a one way up, one way down sort of place, right? You can't really get lost. But they got lost on the mountain. And they're not still jogging to this day, no, but you know, it should have taken them like 40 minutes max to go up and down Shiminari, because you know they're fit, right? But they're going and going and going, and they're like, man, it's taking a while. And eventually they managed to turn around and retrace their steps, luckily, and find their way back down. But by the time they got down, they started at midnight. It was 3 a.m. when they got down. They somehow lost, like, triple the time. Somehow lost triple the time it takes to get there. And they don't have any memory of it. They were just lost in there for that long. Yeah. But stories like that really freak me out. It's it being a little capricious, right? It's pretty spooky. And like, you know, it's a famous shrine. Oinari-san, you know, somewhat benevolent god for sure, but known for having foxes as their familiars. But there's tons of little shrines on the property, on the mountain itself, and like you don't know what is being housed there anymore. I know time distortion is scary, right? So some things might not be okay on there to go visit, you know, alone at nighttime. You would think like churches and shrines and stuff like that would be okay. And sometimes nighttime something else takes over. It's pretty spooky. But anyways, thank you so much for all of your submissions. Unfortunately, that was story number 13. Oh, now there's 27. Sometimes you get scared while watching Yay. 7 hours can disappear. Takumo. Matakumo. But good stories. We'll finish the rest of them next week. But we're going to close. Let's close this off. No, the submissions are still open, don't worry. But next week, either Friday or Saturday, we will finish the rest of them. Don't forget to change your mindset after the stream. Maybe put a little, bathe yourself in salt water, or burn something, or do whatever necessary to change you out of the mindset before you go to bed, okay? Because legitimately, telling stories at the same time, go directly to chica. Telling stories. I'm gonna buy more fireball for the glove box to get. There is a ritual in Japan known as the Hyaku Monogatari, or the 100 Tales, right? And as you tell these ghost stories, they don't even have to be real ghost stories. You attract some entities that start causing disturbances around you. So, take whatever precautions necessary, right? And you don't tell the last story. Yeah. You only tell 99 of the stories. And hopefully you finish when the sun rises, so that the creature summoned doesn't cause too much trouble. What if you like watching ghost stories on YouTube? Do I need to do that? So, not to terrify you too much, but I have a friend that you guys even know about. I'm not gonna say who, but she had a scary encounter from watching too many ghost stories on YouTube. She eventually had a dream where there was a pale face man pressed against the window to her real room in her dream, and she realized that if she kept watching, that the ghost might eventually end up inside of her home. So somebody from V4, by the way. So just be careful with that too. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to ghost stories. Arigato ne. I'm gonna take a shower after this too. I'm gonna cleanse. Watch it during the day. Do you get a sunlight buff? You do. I do think you do. Yeah. It was a good time though. I hope you're reasonably cool now. Maybe you got a few chills up your spine to cool you off in the summer. Hey? But you have a good time now? Hang on, I gotta find somebody to raid before anything. Thanks for the narration in the street. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. You're chilled down to your core. It's also winter for you. You have a good night too. Your mama raised the core. Where should we raid into? Yeah, great job with the stories. Thank you. I don't see anybody we can raid right now. So, we're just gonna go to... We're just gonna go here for now. Alright? Anyways, don't get possessed. Drink some nasty. I do need to drink some nasty. Not just cold water, but thank you. Thanks for taking the extra part. No, thank you for giving all these stories. Cleanse the soul with cute animals, baby. Mwah. I'll see you next time. Oyasumi. Giri giri out. Mwah. Oyasumi.